Hello and welcome into another great night of Cash Bash 2020. Tonight, we are thrilled and honored to be joined by not just a UNCP legend, but a college basketball legend, Coach Kelvin Sampson of the Houston men's basketball team. Coach Sampson has led the Cougars to back-to-back American Athletic Conference regular season championships. His previous coaching experience includes stops at Indiana, Oklahoma, Washington State, Montana Tech. He also has NBA experience from 2008 to 2014. He served as an assistant coach with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Houston Rockets. Coach Sampson has twice been named National Coach of the Year and has been named 4 times Conference Coach of the Year. And perhaps most importantly, at least for this discussion, he is a Pembroke native and a UNC Pembroke alumnus. Coach Sampson, thanks so much for joining us. And before we get to our discussion, let's quickly turn it over to UNCP Director of Athletics, Dick Christie.
John, thanks for coordinating this, and as always, Coach, thanks for your undying support of the Braves. I just wanted to personally thank you. I know how close this is to your heart, and I know how busy your schedule is. The Division I basketball, COVID hasn't really slowed it down that much. I know you guys have been testing and practicing, and for you to take this time out and always be so true to your university and to your hometown, it just means a lot. One thing I would tell our fans. Despite the pressures that are on you, despite you're chasing excellence there at Houston, how well you guys have done, I'm always amazed in my 7 years here, now into my 8th season. Coach Sampson always keeps up with the Braves. I'll get text messages from him, when we lose a tough game or things aren't going great, just saying keep your chin up. And there's a lot of times that when we catch up, he knows as much about what's going on athletically as any of our fans who might live here locally. So his passion has not wavered, and it just shows in his commitment to be willing to be here with us today. So, Coach, you're a great friend of the program. I really appreciate everything that you do for us, and thanks so much for being willing to share today. I know we've got a lot of fans out there interested to hear what the latest is with Houston basketball.
Thank you, Dick. My pleasure. It's when you called and asked about this, I went and told my administrative assistant. Usually our SID sets up my media. But I said, when it's UNCP, I'll handle that myself. So it's always an honor to give back to the university and just as importantly to the town of Pembroke.
Well, I know the missus, is one of our current trustees. She's my boss right now, so make sure you put in a word after this interview.
Well, that's one other thing we have in common. She's my boss too.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, John, I'll let you guys get to the interview. Coach, thanks so much again. Look forward to catching up with you in person once we get past this COVID stuff.
Okay, take care, Dick, and be safe.
Thanks, Dick. And Coach, thank you again for joining us today. Recently, the NCAA announced that Division I basketball will be starting November 25th, so not too far from now, just a couple of months away. How have you personally and the team as a whole been getting prepared for this season in the midst of such an unprecedented situation?
Coaching basketball is so routine driven. Our incoming freshmen usually arrive for the first summer session, which is usually the first week in June. We have a 5-week summer session, then we have a second 5-week summer session that goes into August with a little bit of break in early July, around July 4th. And then from there, you 2-week break after second summer session, which ends around August 10th, couple-week break, then we start first semester. So, we know that's, I just finished my 6th year here at the University of Houston, and that's just, we're kind of driven by that routine. Semester starts right after Labor Day. We kind of ramp up our conditioning and get our kids mentally and physically, emotionally, psychologically ready for a long season. We go from September all the way through March, and then we start our new cycle, April, May, back at it in June, and it just never ends. But this year's a lot like being in Houston traffic. A lot of starting and stopping. the COVID test that we've been given our kids, our first responsibility is to the health and welfare of our student athletes. We've had 2 Zoom sessions with our parents to make sure they're aware of our protocols, that their sons will be safe. When we were shut down, I think I had 3 Zoom sessions a week with either the players or the coaching staff, our athletic administration. So it's been unique, but it's unique to everybody. Nobody is individualized in this. We're all in this together. Whether it's UNC Pembroke, University of Houston, University of Colorado, Cincinnati, it doesn't matter. We're all in this together. You navigate it, get through it the best you can, and understanding that our responsibility is the health and welfare of our student athletes.
And Coach, you and the Cougars enter a season with, again, high expectations. We talked about it earlier, back-to-back AAC regular conference titles. You certainly earned those expectations, but you've been able to turn this program around and have maintained a spot in the upper echelon of college basketball programs. What have been the keys to orchestrating this turnaround?
Well, we've got a great staff. I think I've had seven assistant coaches to go on and become head coaches at places like UTEP, Fresno State, Mercer, Central Connecticut. I'm missing some. I knew if I started, I'd forget somebody. But keeping this staff together has been important. I've had a couple of my guys interview for head coaching jobs. I've had 2 that's kind of pulled out, thinking that maybe if they stayed here a little bit longer, it could maybe get higher level jobs. But I have a great staff. My son Kellen is he's a stud. He's really good. Quantus White, who was my starting point guard on the Final Four and an Elite 8 team at Oklahoma. Alvin Brooks, who's in the Hall of Fame at Lamar University, was drafted by the Indiana Pacers, is another assistant. And then Hollis Price, Mikael McClain. I've got so many guys. I've got 4 former players that are on my staff, and I try to make sure I take care of those guys when they want to get into coaching and give them opportunities. I feel like that's part of my responsibility, is to take care of my former players. But we have a culture here. Culture is an often used, maybe misunderstood, or a term that gets thrown around a lot, but is critical to your success. Culture is what time you come to practice every day, how hard you work, going to class every day, treating people with respect, opening doors for ladies, making sure that you're representing your mom and dad, your community that you come from, the university, the program, the best way possible. When I look back at the success we've had here, we just have high character kids. When I was working with the San Antonio Spurs, the thing that jumped out at me working with them was, how high character guys like Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan were, and they drove that program's culture. It's not that I learned anything; it was a reaffirmation of the things that we've been doing. Is that if you don't want problems in college basketball or college athletics in general, then don't recruit them. We get to choose who we want to recruit, and sometimes coaches will negotiate talent over character. It's easy to find kids with high character, and it's easy to find kids with a lot of talent. But the trick is finding those with both. And sometimes you may have to be true to who you are as a coach, as a person, but also the culture of the program. Our leaders, our seniors, our juniors, our sophomores, our freshmen, you pass it down as you go. We 2 years ago, I think we were 33-4, and we lost 4 starters off that team. We repeated as conference champions in a year where maybe we were supposed to take a step back. And I get asked, how were you able to to do that, it's our high character kids. We handle adversity. I think it's been, knock on wood, I think it's been 3 years since we've lost 2 games in a row. When you lose a game, you find out a lot about yourself as a coach, your staff, and your players that next day in practice. It's easy to coach when you're winning, but when you lose a game, how you handle that adversity in practice the next day often tells you how the strength and the fabric of your culture.
And you talked about the success, obviously, on the court and off the court, and those certainly 2 major goals of overseeing a college athletic program. How important is it to have the necessary resources, the necessary personnel in place in order to achieve those goals?
Well, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. What comes first? Support or winning? Winning and support. When we came to Houston, obviously the program was depleted. And I'm being nice. Facilities were not very good, and I'm being nice when I say that. But I was looking for a program that I could build, I could rebuild. I didn't want to go somewhere where they had everything in place. They just wanted to win. I needed to build something. I think Houston needed me, but just as important, I needed Houston. So we just put our hard hats on, our boots, threw some eye black under our eyes, and put our work belt on and just went to work. We had a chance to sign some really good players that we passed on because we didn't think they fit the culture that we had. One of the things I'm most proud of here is that we have a 90% graduation rate. We had a kid drafted by the New York Knicks a couple of years ago that's 2 credits shy, not 2 classes, I should say, 6 credits, 2 classes. I've been talking to him a lot during the pandemic about this would be a good time to get back here and finish a couple of classes. I had another kid that put his name in the draft early. That's probably going to get drafted this year, Nate Hinton. Talking to him about getting back, making sure that he gets his degree. But, when you emphasize the right things, I think fans, communities, they can relate to that. That's one of the things I've been impressed with UNCP, whether it's Drew or Coach Miller, Dan Kinney, Dick Christie, high character guys that care about the university and care about the community. And that's the thing that I'm most interested in. Don't work at UNCP and separate yourself from Pembroke, North Carolina. Pembroke is a unique place from a cultural standpoint. Native, being Native American and living in Pembroke, you're in a cocoon a little bit. But the thing that drives, I think, the town of Pembroke is the university, and the best thing happened to Pembroke is the university. But the university also thrives off the people there. So supporting that university is important, and you have to support it. There's a difference in being a fan and being a supporter. Being a fan that just shows up to the games and criticizes the program when you lose, don't need that. You don't have to be very smart to figure out why a team lost. But when you invest in your program, and this is the town of Pembroke's program, the most visible program in that town is the basketball program, for instance. Some people may not want to hear that, but that's the truth. You need UNCP basketball to be successful. And the thing that Dick has done is found coaches that can establish a culture, recruit good players, and win. Guys like Tony Dellinger, Jim Gain, Wiley Barrett, Jimmy Gambardella, Barry Hopkins, Joe Gallagher, who was my college coach. Those guys have been so committed to that program. They inspire me. I'm on a email chain with those guys, and I see the support that they give. Whether you can give $5 or $25 or $100, or they're constantly challenging each other to support the program, which I think is why Cash Bash is so important. It's not about how much you give; it's just important to give. UNC Pembroke needs the support. They have to have it. They're in a conference with other schools that are trying to win games. It costs some money for scholarships. I was talking to Dick earlier. Scholarship support's right at $1.7 million. The salaries and travel and things like that's another $1.7 million approximately. So we have to go raise that money. We have to have people committed. There's a difference in being involved in something, John, versus being committed to it. UNC Pembroke athletics needs supporters, not just fans, supporters, people that are committed, that care about the success of that university. When you go all over the state of North Carolina, you hear about Dr. Robin Cummings and how UNC Pembroke has grown. The commitment that the graduates have as they go around the state, not just in North Carolina, but whether it's Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, all around that southeastern part of the United States. They go out and they're great representatives. But we have to support the athletic department. I know Karen and I talk about that a lot. How are we going to help? Where can we help? How can we make a difference? And we're certainly going to do that. But not everybody can give it the same level, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The $100 times 20 means a lot. That might be 3 road trips for the basketball team. You got to get in the bus. You got to have hotel rooms. Kids got to eat. Coaches have to support their families. I'm breaking it down in finite terms, but at the same time, I understand. I coached at an NAI school. I graduated from an NAI school. And being at an NAI school forces you to learn how to do more with less. And I think that's the magic of Dick Christie. I hope the coaches, student athletes, the community. I know Robin does. Dr. Cummings does. One of the things that when he and I talk, he always talks about how lucky he is to have Dick Christie as his athletic director. And this Cash Bash is important. It's important. And I hope from the interviews that you do with different people, how you guys have extended yourselves to try to make UNC Pembroke the best it can be, especially in athletics, is critical. Athletics is the front porch to the athletic program. When UNCP has success in basketball and football, people know about it. They go out. One of my greatest thrills just in the last 15 years or so is us having a football program. I see the impact that's had. I mentioned it's important to have basketball. I should have said it's just as important to have football too. Football and basketball are the 2 flagship programs of our university athletically. And the more we give, the better chance they have to succeed.
Phenomenal answer, Coach. And again, if you are able to give, look at the link below, www.uncpbraves.com/Cash Bash to support Braves athletics. Coach, you talked about the symbiotic relationship between the university and the town of Pembroke, and you represent both sides of that. You're a graduate of, then Pembroke State, and you grew up in Pembroke, North Carolina. How important is it for you to represent not just the university, but the town and the Lumbee tribe at such a high level?
Well, I've had so many influences in my life, starting with my mother and father. I get linked to my dad a lot because he was a great athlete at UNCP, and he was a basketball coach. So there's an automatic connection with him and my career. But my mother had just as big an influence. When I was at Pembroke, I was solely a political science major, thinking I was going to go to law school. I'm not even sure how many people even knew that. But my mother brought me into her office at UNCP, or Pembroke State University at the time, in that old infirmary. And she sat me, I didn't know what she wanted. She just said, can you come by the infirmary this morning? She knew my class schedule. I don't know if that's good or bad if your mother knew your class schedule. I said, uh-oh, what did I do? But she sat me down and said, one day you may want to coach. And that's why I always listen to your mother. And I think I was being defensive about it, that I wanted to try this. For some reason, Thurgood Marshall had a connection to him and what he was doing with NAACP, helping deprived people, those less fortunate. I felt like that's what I wanted to do. But she taught me into getting a second major in health and physical education. So that was early in the semester. So I rearranged my schedule, started taking health physical education classes. And that's where I had a professor by the name of Dr. Andre Nadeau, and he taught a kinesiology class. And I went to that class, and I was just, I immersed myself in that class in him. He had such a great influence on me. One of my teammates at UNCP, Bobby Dole, I saw where Bobby donated money for Dr. Andre Nadeau scholarship. And I couldn't have been more proud of that because of the influence he had on me. So I wound up doing my student teaching the following fall. I think it was at Upchurch Junior High School in Rayford, North Carolina. And the basketball coach there was Tubby Smith. He was the high school coach at then it was I think it was called Hope County High School, not Rayford, it was Hope County High School. Of course, this was in 1977. And once I started coaching, I just got the bug. But I coached a 6th grade girls team, and my best player, I had the best player, and we won every game because of her. Her name was Sheila Reagan. I'm sure some of the old timers will remember Sheila. She had a brother, Richard, who was an outstanding point guard for my dad at Pembroke High School. But Sheila was a really good player, and she doesn't know this. I don't think I've ever told anybody this, John. But Sheila Reagan had a lot to do with me loving coaching because of she was such a good player, but she's such a good person too. She was so coachable, and I just loved being around that little 6th grade girls team. They were old Pembroke High School. I don't even know what it is now, but that would have been in 76, 77, 78, somewhere in that range. But people in Pembroke have such great pride in who they are. I started my coaching career in Butte, Montana, and there was such a connection with the people in Butte, Montana, and the people in Pembroke, North Carolina, and that don't say anything bad about our people, because we're going to come back at you. And Butte was very much like that. It was an old mining town, and they had a chip on their shoulder because all the mines had shut down, and there was some economic issues in that city, and we kind of rallied everybody around the basketball program there, but they supported it like crazy. And I see the same thing in Pembroke with the Lumbees and that university. The Lumbees do a great job of supporting that university, and that's something I've always been proud of.
You were a 2-sport athlete in your time at Pembroke State, played basketball and baseball. When you reflect on your time as a student athlete at UNCP, how did that experience shape and impact your career as to getting where you are now?
Well, I was pretty good at both. Not real good at either one. I love to play. I was a decent high school player, decent high school basketball player, decent high school baseball player. And, one of the things that helped me was that as I started my coaching career, I could relate to everybody on the team. I could relate to the starters. I knew how the kids that didn't get to play as much as maybe they wanted to play. I knew how they felt. And that helped me coach the entire team. Sometimes as a head coach, the fans focus on the best players. They know who they are, but they don't always know who those kids that sit on the bench are. And as a player, I was one of the guys that sat on the bench. And and I could really relate to them, and I think that helped me coach my team and bring the team together. I played on the team with Tom Gardner, Tony Dellinger, Linwood Graham, Jim Griffith, Tony Falcon, Cromartie, good guys, Jimbo Blassingame, Elmer Brown, Stan Roundtree. I can name a lot of those guys, but the guys that influenced me the most was the coaches. My freshman year, Lacey Gain, Coach Gain, was the one that recruited me to Pembroke. And then he left after 1 year, and Joe Gallagher took over. But the assistant coaches we had, Jim O'Brien, who went on to become the head coach for the. When I was at Indiana, he was the head coach for the Indiana Pacers, and we talked a lot during that time. John Lentz, who was one of the great players at Lenore Rhine, whose son works for Rick Barnes at Tennessee now. Rick and I were talking about that the other day. Rick Walden, and then the last coach I had was Dan Kinney. Assistant coach I had was Dan Kinney. We had great assistant coaches who all went on to do great things. Our program was built on good people, high character people that cared about that university. But Ed Crane, track and field, Harold Ellen in baseball. All the sports had great coaches, and the track and field program was great. But my dad, Coach Gain, Coach Gallagher, and then when I got to when I graduated UNC Pembroke, I went to grad school at Michigan State University, and got to be a grad assistant under Judd Heathcote, which really springboarded my career. But all those things, when I was a little boy, I worked at my grandmother and grandfather's grocery store right off Main Street. He had a little grocery store down a back alley. This was before all the chain grocery stores came. So you got to meet people. I saw how my grandmother and grandfather treated everybody. I saw the respect that they gave them. That was an important lesson for me. But all the lessons that I learned in Pembroke's helped me throughout my life. But Pembroke, the town, and UNC Pembroke, the school, they gave me the foundation, at least to be successful. It doesn't guarantee success, but it certainly gives you a chance.
Phenomenal insight from a true UNCP legend. And again, please visit www.uncpbraves.com/cashbash to support Braves athletics today. Coach, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck this season with the Cougars.
Thank you, John. And I wish you all the best. Safe travels from New Jersey down to Pembroke. I just want to say hello to all my friends at UNCP and Pembroke, and wish you guys all the best. Stay safe. Good luck and have a great year.